Hello, back again on the Top Recap channel. This time I will tell a movie's entitled Security. Let's get straight into the storyline. The story opens with Eddie Deacon, a former Marine Corps Delta captain, sitting quietly in the driver's seat, lost in thought. After a brief moment of reflection, he grabs his keys and steps out of the car. Eddie is currently searching for employment, hoping to secure a job that will help support his family. He then heads toward the administrator's office for an interview, where he introduces himself as a former member of the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, from his division. Eddie then says that he deployed 3 times on 3 consecutive tours. Despite telling the administrator that he can do anything they need, the administrator informs Eddie that they don't have anything that matches his skill set. Unfortunately, Eddie fails to get the job he applied for, as the position was already filled a week ago. Due to his retirement from the Corps, Eddie has been unable to find a decent job for a year. He has also grown distant from his wife and daughter because of his eagerness to get employed. Frustrated, Eddie walks out and returns to his car, when suddenly the administrator follows him, telling him that he can start the job tonight. At first, she hesitates because his psych evaluation shows a red flag, even though he technically passed it. Eddie thanks her as she hands him the paperwork. Meanwhile, a U.S. Marshal reports on the vehicle they're going to use, saying it's all-wheel drive, armored, and was serviced last week. Afterward, the U.S. Marshal convoy leaves their security base to transport a young girl named Jamie. Later that night, a U.S. Marshal agent talks on a phone call, reporting that their convoy won't reach Cedar City for another hour due to a rainstorm. Suddenly, the call drops. He then orders Bree to check her phone, only to find that they both lost signal because of the storm. Suddenly, one of the U.S. Marshals notices a group of vehicles behind them. He asks their chief security officer if the 1A is supposed to be locked down.
See that?
Eventually, they get ambushed by professional, heavily armed mercenaries. They try to radio convoy cars number 2 and number 3, but no one answers. Then, one of the cars suddenly rolls over after hitting a road full of spikes. A gunfight ensues in the middle of the road, and the chief security officer orders his men, including Jamie, to get out of the car before they're killed. However, most of the marshals are already dead due to the sudden attack. The chief tells Jamie to run into the woods once she gets a signal from him. With no other choice, the chief security officer lets her go, despite meeting her as a witness in an organized crime trial. He reminds Jamie never to look back and to keep running until she finds help. Crying, Jamie runs off while the U.S. Marshals fight the attackers. After the gunfight, the mercenary boss orders his men to clean up the mess on the road. Unfortunately, none of the marshals, including the chief security officer, survive. Meanwhile, Eddie is resting at a motel before leaving for his midnight shift. He suddenly picks up his phone and calls Valerie, his wife, to tell her he has found a job. He promises Valerie that he will return home after getting through some things. Valerie opens up, telling Eddie that their daughter Sylvie has been asking about him. Eddie quickly ends the call, asking Valerie to tell Sylvie that he loves her. Later, Eddie arrives at Ridgeside Mall for his first shift. Upon entering, he gets a hands-on orientation from Vance, the head of a small group of on-duty mall security guards. Vance explains that Eddie should not work overtime, and that there are only 2 15-minute breaks during each 8-hour shift. While talking, Vance leads him toward the command HQ, showing Eddie the small cubby they've set up for him. The lights glitch because of the storm, but Vance continues the orientation. He introduces the overnight crew, Mason, Ruby, and Johnny. After giving Eddie his uniform, Vance begins touring him through the 5 zones of the mall. Eventually, Vance asks if Eddie has any questions. Eddie inquires about the riot barricades, tasers, and why a 5-person night crew is needed to protect such an outdated and seemingly quiet mall. Vance reassures him, saying that the crew can handle it, even if it's just 5 of them.
Questions? And if you don't mind me saying, you keep in amazing shape. So I gotta know. Army, welcome to the team, soldier. Really? No, just good luck.
Eddie starts patrolling the mall when the lights glitch again due to the rolling thunder. He turns on his flashlight just as Vance radios him. Eddie asks if the security cameras have backup power, and Vance assures him they do. Before Vance can fix the power, the electricity comes back on, and he tells Eddie to move along. Everything is under control. As Eddie continues his patrol, he suddenly sees Jamie outside, crying and seeking help.
No, it's a little girl.
Eddie radios Vance, saying he's going to let her in without waiting for permission. Janie enters and immediately warns Eddie that the mercenaries are coming. She then collapses, and Eddie quickly carries her, curious about who's chasing her. He brings her to the command HQ and tells Johnny to call the police. Suddenly, Mason sees on the CCTV that a man is approaching the mall. Unbeknownst to them, it's the mercenaries' leader, Charlie, posing as Jamie's father to gain access.
I'm looking for my daughter, a little girl. She's 11.
Hey, yeah, we got her. Yeah, she's here. She's okay. Don't worry.
Oh, thank God.
Vance orders Johnny to bring down Jamie, but Eddie stops him, telling them that Jamie said someone is after her, and he suspects it's Charlie.
Just, what is her name, sir?
Her name's Jamie.
Open the door.
Vance refuses to believe Eddie and tries to open the door. Eddie starts interrogating Charlie, asking why Jamie would be running away in the middle of the night. Johnny arrives with the still sleeping Jamie. Eddie informs Charlie that she has cuts and scrapes, but is otherwise okay. Vance is still working to unlock the padlocks as Eddie continues questioning Charlie. Suddenly, Jamie wakes up and frantically screams to get away from him. Instead of handing her over, Vance quickly closes the door and orders Johnny to take Jamie away. Their ruse fails, so Farrell, one of the mercenaries, brings out a money box and offers them cash in exchange for handing Jamie over. The box contains $1.25 million in unmarked, untraceable American currency. Charlie tries to convince Vance to take the deal, but Eddie stops him. Charlie then threatens Vance, giving him two options: hand over Jamie and get rich, or refuse, and every last one of them will die horribly, and no one will get rich. So Eddie immediately orders Vance to step away, but Charlie is too eager to get Jamie. He gives Vance an ultimatum, saying he knows there are only 5 security guards in the mall, armed with tasers and zip ties, and that they have no cell signal or outside communication, in case they haven't noticed. It would be hard for them to keep Jamie alive, especially since they can't keep the mercenaries out either.
What's it gonna be, Vance?
Vance agrees and tries to let Charlie in, but suddenly, Eddie stops him by slamming his head against the door. Left with no choice, Charlie walks away to prepare for an assault on the mall. Afterward, Charlie orders his men to spread out and position themselves off the roads. He sets a perimeter around the parking lot and moves all communication to a secure radio band. Meanwhile, Eddie finds Jamie inside the mall and tries to convince her to trust someone like him. He begins talking about his daughter, who is around the same age. However, Jamie appears behind him with a gun, pointing it at his back and ordering him to get her dry clothes and food. Eddie complies, turning around, then disarms her quickly. Jamie tells Eddie that if he truly wants her trust, he must protect her at all costs. Eddie agrees, and they go to the command HQ to inform the others of Jamie's situation. Mason, shocked, realizes Jamie is a witness in the case against the gang 666. He explains that Jamie's father was the money man for a cartel, but eventually decided to help the feds build a case against them. Because of this, he was killed, and Jamie witnessed everything.
They found out and they killed him. She saw the whole thing. She is supposed to testify tomorrow.
Jamie is supposed to testify against the people who murdered her father. Suddenly, they see mercenaries scattering through the CCTV feeds across the parking lot. Eddie and Vance quickly take Jamie to a storage room to keep her safe. Eddie gives her a radio to stay in contact, along with a flashlight and water. Before leaving, he hands her a key and instructs her to lock the door and never open it, no matter what she hears. Back in the command HQ, Eddie and the guards watch as the mercenaries disable their vehicles on the CCTV. Frightened, Mason tries to leave, but Eddie stops him, warning that fear will get him killed. He tells Mason that Charlie is a professional and a high-dollar contractor.
You want to get home to your wife and kid? Stay in the building.
Mason pleads with Eddie to share his plan, hoping it'll help him survive and get home safely.
Let's make time, our friend.
Eddie forms a defense strategy, teaming up Mason and Johnny to set traps using whatever weapons they have. Meanwhile, Charlie signals Farrell to attack, and one of his men attempts to crash a car through the door. Eddie responds by tossing a gas weapon, setting the door ablaze to keep the mercenaries from entering. The team retreats inside, but Vance is attacked by Farrell and nearly killed, until Ruby intervenes and saves him.
Ruby?
Come on.
Afterward, Vance shares his idea. They should stall Charlie and take out as many of the mercenaries as possible.
They seem to be holding for now.
Eddie then assigns posts. Ruby will hide in the perfume store, Vance in kitchenware. They will form the first line of defense. Mason is stationed in the home and garden section as lookout, while Johnny starts making homemade bombs. Their plan works for a while. They manage to kill several mercenaries inside the mall. Charlie, however, takes over the command HQ. Ruby is mortally wounded while helping Vance escape and is gunned down by 3 mercenaries. Outside, a sniper reports to Charlie that a county sheriff is turning off the highway. Charlie orders his men to hold their fire unless someone tries something stupid.
Nobody do anything rash, we are watching.
Eddie signals Johnny to turn on his flashlight to alert the sheriff, but it's broken.
I'm going out there. I'm hard.
Johnny, disobeying orders, opens the food court door to get the sheriff's attention. The sniper spots him and kills him instantly. Frustrated, Charlie makes his next move after spotting Eddie, Jamie, and the others escaping to another part of the mall. Mason later reports that U.S. Marshals are arriving. So Eddie goes to check, only to be forced to his knees by men posing as marshals. They demand Jamie's location. Eddie radios Mason to bring Jamie down to them, while Vance urges her to run quickly and escape. But Eddie suddenly realizes they're not real marshals. They're mercenaries, identified by a telltale Met tattoo. Eddie radios Jamie, telling her to stop running. It's a trap. He then eliminates all the mercenaries, but is unable to save Mason, who is killed during the ambush. Jamie, meanwhile, hides and starts yelling to lure any remaining attackers out. She attempts to call the police, waiting for Eddie to find her. Eddie radios her, telling her to be quiet and stay brave. They're all over the mall. He instructs her to grab Ruby's walkie-talkie and use it to call for help. Eddie then plans to take out Charlie's van, which is jamming the radio signal. Suddenly, Charlie's second-in-command, Deadeyes, attacks him. Eddie uses a motorized trike to try to outrun him, but Deadeyes jumps on, forcing a brutal fight. Eddie and Deadeyes clash before Eddie regains control of the trike and crashes it into the jamming van, disabling it. He radios Jamie, but is suddenly shot in the back by the sniper. Eddie crawls to Vance's car, grabs a gun, and manages to kill both the sniper and Deadeyes. Meanwhile, Charlie searches them all for Jamie, telling her twisted stories, claiming her father asked him to look after her in exchange for her silence, and to stop her from testifying. The movie reaches its climax as Jamie tries to escape, but Charlie finds her. He grabs her by the neck, using her as a hostage. He tells Eddie to walk away and take the money instead.
Jamie, you know how he works.
Jamie, thinking quickly, discreetly uses the taser Eddie gave her to shoot Charlie. This gives Eddie the chance to shoot Charlie in the head, killing him. Finally, the police arrive and take Jamie to safety. Before leaving, Jamie runs back to embrace Eddie. Vance survives and is taken into an ambulance. The following day, Jamie visits Eddie in the hospital to thank him and tells him that his daughter is lucky to have him as a father.
You're gonna be okay.
In the end, Jamie returns home with her uncle, while Eddie is reunited with his wife and daughter.